Imagine an empire whose military might spans 3 continents, an army both feared and admired for its impeccable discipline and innovative strategies. That was the reality of Rome. Yet behind the imposing legions were ordinary men who all too often bore the sacrifices of a life in battle. Just like us, they had ambitions, hopes, and above all, they refused to be subjugated by leaders they deemed weak or unjust. In this story, we will dive into some of the most remarkable episodes of revolts and mutinies that occurred within the Roman troops themselves. These were moments when loyalty, one of the strongest pillars of any army, was put to the test. In each revolt, we'll discover how different commanders, from renowned figures like Julius Caesar to lesser-known generals, reacted when they saw their legions questioning their authority. Over the next few minutes, you'll learn not only how these revolts began, but also what they meant for the empire, for the soldiers, and for the leaders involved. It's a journey that reveals the humanity behind the Roman armor and shows how sometimes the real battle was fought within the ranks themselves. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're subscribed to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss any of our past adventures filled with fascinating curiosities about ancient Rome. The Mutiny of 342 BC, the conspiracy in Capua. Let's begin by traveling back to the distant past of Rome, when the First Samnite War revealed that soldiers wouldn't always accept the role of mere instruments of battle. In 342 BC, during the First Samnite War, Gaius Marcius Rutilus faced an unusual situation in Capua. The city, wealthy and pleasant, had temporarily welcomed his troops. At first, everything went smoothly, but the excess of comfort led some soldiers to question why they should protect the place instead of simply seizing it for themselves. This line of thought soon spread, sparking rumors of a plan to take over the city. Noticing the first sparks of revolt, Rutilus adopted a strategy of discreetly dispersing the troops, sending small contingents on alternative missions. The problem was that the soldiers interpreted this gesture as a prelude to severe punishment. Suspicious, they began to band together and chose Titus Vifive, a former patrician soldier who lived in isolation, as their leader. In no time, a large number of soldiers, and even some prisoners, joined the cause. It was then that the Senate appointed Marcus Valerius Corvus as dictator to handle the crisis. Instead of ordering an attack, Corvus opted for dialogue. He spoke with the mutineers, promising amnesty and assuring them that their concerns would be heard. Thus, the revolt was contained without bloodshed, proving that the power game isn't always decided by the sword. Have you ever wondered how events like this shape the destiny of an empire? Hit that like button now so we can keep bringing you stories as impactful as this one. Galba's cavalry, when punishment turned into flames. If you thought that the success or failure of mutinies depended only on famous generals, get ready to see how an ill-considered decision by Servilius Galba nearly reduced his camp to ashes. During a campaign on the Iberian Peninsula, Servilius Galba, a renowned commander known for his difficult temperament, received reports that his cavalry was mocking him in casual conversations. Feeling his pride wounded, Galba ordered a risky mission for these very men to gather firewood in an area known to be frequented by enemies. Such an order seemed more like a punishment than a legitimate military duty. Outraged by the treatment, the cavalry still carried out the mission, but were supported by other soldiers who voluntarily decided to protect them during the task. This act of solidarity intensified the revolt in the camp, as the troops realized that Galba was willing to put them in unnecessary danger purely on a whim. On their return, the revolt exploded. To demonstrate their indignation, the group piled firewood around Galba's tent and set it ablaze, destroying part of the camp. Although the fire didn't get out of control, The message was clear. The soldiers would not accept humiliation. This episode deeply marred Galba's reputation, showing that the loyalty of the troops was never guaranteed. The death of Gaius Marius and the rebellion that shook Rome. When a great hero falls, what happens to his followers? See how the absence of Gaius Marius, the legendary consul behind major military reforms, triggered a loyalty crisis that would change Rome's political landscape. With the death of Gaius Marius in 86 BC, Rome lost not only an experienced general, but also the charismatic leader who held the popular forces together. Marius, a man of nearly 70 years, was renowned for his achievements and his talent for rewarding his soldiers, providing them with a sense of security and prestige. Without this central figure, the balance of power began to teeter dangerously. Lucius Cornelius Cinna, who tried to keep the Populares faction in control, simply didn't have Marius's commanding presence. As a result, many veterans felt abandoned, with no promises of future rewards. The resentment grew until it culminated in a mutiny, with the troops accusing Cinna of promising more than he could deliver. Amid the chaos, Cinna was assassinated by his own men, proving that without Marius, respect for leadership was no longer automatic. This rebellion opened the door for the conservatives, the optimates, to regain power. Moreover, it paved the way for Lucius Cornelius Sulla, then campaigning in the east, to return to Rome with a strong and determined army. The city soon learned that the absence of a charismatic leader could be very costly, with the price paid in civil wars and profound political transformations. Did you know this intriguing detail about Gaius Marius's death? Leave your comments and share your thoughts. The mutiny of Julius Caesar's legions. Charisma versus rebellion. What if even the greatest strategist in Roman history had to face the wrath of his own men? Get ready to see how Julius Caesar, despite his immense prestige, had to use all his cunning to quell the revolt of his troops. Julius Caesar, famous for his political and military prowess, was not immune to the financial pressures faced by his legions. During the Civil War, many veterans had been repeatedly called up and were eagerly awaiting rewards and payments that were long overdue. This growing dissatisfaction was compounded by Caesar's distant campaigns, which left his troops with little news and without the promised remuneration. When tensions reached their peak, some legions mutinied, demanding immediate dismissal or resolution of their debts. Instead of meeting them with force, Caesar employed a psychological strategy. He appeared before the mutineers and promptly agreed to their demand for discharge. He declared that from that moment on, he would regard them as ordinary citizens rather than battle comrades. This move reversed the situation, as the soldiers felt humiliated by being so callously discarded. In the end, they begged to continue serving the leader they so admired. Caesar consented, but made sure to assign the ringleaders of the revolt to the most dangerous positions in future campaigns. In doing so, he restored order and maintained absolute control over his troops, reaffirming his reputation as a tactical genius, not only on the battlefield, but also in managing human emotions. The revolt of the Centurions, the day Mark Antony and Octavian had to negotiate. Do you think powerful generals rule alone? Just wait until you discover how a simple act of defiance by the Centurions forced Mark Antony and Octavian to strike, a deal that postponed one of history's most famous conflicts. In 40 BC, Rome was already divided among the powerful leaders of the Second Triumvirate, Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus. Despite an appearance of unity, tension between Mark Antony and Octavian was mounting. The two began gathering legions for a direct confrontation that threatened to plunge the Roman world into yet another civil war. However, something surprising happened. The Centurions, the men in charge of leading the smaller groups within the legions, refused to fight each other. Having fought side by side under Julius Caesar, they couldn't understand why they should now face off in a conflict driven by personal political issues. The Centurions held enormous influence over the soldiers, and in the face of this defiance, Mark Antony and Octavian were forced to sit down and negotiate. The result was the Treaty of Brundisium, which renewed the division of territories between them and postponed the inevitable conflict. Although the peace was temporary, this episode proved that Roman leaders depended greatly on the support of their troops. Without the trust of the soldiers, even the most charismatic and powerful generals couldn't simply wage war. Are you enjoying these stories of loyalty and betrayal? Hit that like button right now so we can keep bringing you astonishing details from ancient Rome. Germanicus's legions, when the death of Augustus created chaos, with Augustus out of the picture and Tiberius in power, what could go wrong? Discover now how a young general was nearly proclaimed emperor by his own troops. In 14 AD, following the death of Augustus, his successor Tiberius ascended to the throne. To reinforce the Roman presence along the northern frontiers, Tiberius sent Germanicus, the adoptive son of his brother Drusus, to command 6 legions in Germania. Germanicus was young, yet beloved by the troops for his courage and generosity. However, this popularity would soon become a double-edged sword. The legions, discontented with low wages, excessive labor, and abuses by the Centurions, saw in Germanicus the potential for a new emperor. Instead of rallying behind Tiberius, many soldiers wanted to proclaim Germanicus as their supreme leader. Desperate to maintain loyalty to the emperor, Germanicus refused the crown and even threatened to take his own life, causing panic and commotion among the rebels. To calm the situation, Germanicus went as far as forging a letter, supposedly signed by Tiberius, granting benefits to the soldiers. Although this ruse worked momentarily, instability persisted until Germanicus eliminated the mutiny's ringleaders and adopted conciliatory measures to appease the troops. This episode revealed the fragility of the newly ascended Tiberius and the immense power a beloved general could wield. The rebellion against Emperor Galba, from hero to villain in just a few months. If you think the situation was chaotic, just wait to see how a new emperor faced the hostility of his own troops as soon as he set foot in Rome. In 68 AD, Emperor Galba came to power after Nero's downfall. Galba entered the scene with a reputation for integrity, but he was also known for his extreme rigidity and stinginess. Upon arriving in the capital, he found legions expecting rewards and bonuses promised by previous emperors, something Galba steadfastly refused to pay. The frustration quickly turned into rebellion. Newly recruited soldiers, who had anticipated extra pay or loyalty bonuses, felt betrayed when Galba, with his harsh demeanor, dismissed them without any compensation. The revolt spread throughout the city of Rome, forcing Galba to order a violent crackdown. Thousands were killed, imprisoned, or tortured in a desperate attempt to quell the uprising. Months later, realizing he couldn't hold on to power without military support, Galba released some of the remaining soldiers and granted them minimal privileges, which eventually led to the formation of a new unit. However, the damage was done. Confidence in Galba's abilities had been seriously undermined, and Rome would soon plunge into a series of struggles for the throne, the infamous Year of the Four Emperors. Were you surprised by how the events unfolded? Leave your comments on how you view this succession of mutinies and share the video with your friends. Consequences and reflections, the fragility of power. Now that we've followed the main revolts, let's analyze how these mutinies transformed Rome and left lessons that still resonate today. Each revolt, whether small or large, highlighted one crucial aspect: Rome's power was determined not only by its generals and politicians, but also by the willingness of its soldiers to obey. When they felt mistreated or threatened, the legionaries could turn their backs on their leaders, or even turn their swords against them. For the empire, the lesson was clear. Maintaining a delicate balance between authority and reward was essential. Many commanders used promises of land, timely payments, and public recognition to secure their troops' loyalty. Others, as we've seen, underestimated the discontent or responded with disproportionate violence, leading to devastating consequences. At the same time, these revolts opened the door for alternative leaders to emerge. Julius Caesar and Germanicus, for example, earned the respect and devotion of their legions by skillfully managing internal conflicts. In contrast, inflexible generals like Galba discovered that a crown can be lost as quickly as it is won. A reflection on the revolts. We have reached the end of our journey through the revolts that shook the mighty Roman army. Discipline, considered the greatest virtue of the legions, was also their greatest weakness if not managed with care and respect. From the Republican era to imperial times, these mutinies revealed that military cohesion depended not only on Roman steel, but also on treating soldiers with dignity. Looking at these stories, we realize how politics, personal ambition, and the living conditions of soldiers formed a complex mosaic. A mosaic where each piece could fall and bring down the entire structure if leaders failed to balance promises, rewards, and above all, humanity. And you, which revolt caught your attention the most? Leave your reflections and theories in the comments. We really want to know what you think about this less glorious yet essential side of Roman history. If you enjoyed this journey back in time and want more fascinating stories, subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and share this video with your friends. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode about ancient Rome and its empire.